Hello, my name is Kate, and welcome to the local history of Northern Kentucky. Today we're going to be taking a look back at Christmas holiday and winter memories with stories and photos from the library's Faces and Places database. So to begin, we have some pictures here showing Santa's various modes of transportation over the years. Santa has often traded his sleigh for a tank bus, and many of these photos are from 1984, when Tank collected Toys for Tots, and a toy donation would equal a free bus ride for a passenger. And in the first 2 days of this program, Tank collected more than 1,000 toys, and Santa was also seen passing out candy canes to the little girl near the left, and then to William Wright of Latonia, who's pictured in the middle. And the photo there on the right shows Nancy Allen debarking from a TWA jet dressed in Santa garb, and this was on Christmas Eve 1971. And the plan for this visit started in the previous September, when she had planned to surprise her daughter and grandchildren with a Christmas Eve visit. And her daughter Brenda Class and her family lived here in Cold Spring, so she decided to make the flight from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where she lived, and decided to make the flight in a Santa suit and passed out silver dollars and other gifts to children at airports along the way. So UPI heard about her plan, and they reported it across the nation along with other news outlets, and it became a national news story that year. And this information was kept from Nancy Allen's daughter because her phone and television were temporarily disconnected, and neighbors of hers also arranged to steal Mrs. Class's daily copies of the Kentucky Post to prevent her from finding out. And this plan worked, and her daughter admitted that she didn't know anything about her mother's visit, saying that her husband had good excuses for everything. So when she arrived at the airport, there was a Kentucky Post reporter, a team from a local television station, and then about 30 small children waiting for her inside the terminal. And she guessed that she'd passed out about 150 silver dollars at airports in Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. And she said that it was just a wonderful 3 days. I just wanted everyone to have a very Merry Christmas. Here we have a couple of Christmas babies. On the left is Rita Ann Steidle with her new baby Norbert Paul Steidle, and she was the first Northern Kentucky mother to give birth on Christmas Day 1967 at St. Elizabeth Hospital. And on the right is Mrs. Carolyn Davis with the first Christmas baby of 1964 at the new Grant County Hospital, and that was a baby boy. And here is Dr. Stephen and Mrs. Sonja Goldberg. Dr. Goldberg was the director of the internal medicine department at Jewish Hospital, and they're pictured here at their home with their children, their 3 children, and this was as they were lighting the candle on the menorah to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah in December of 1980. And this picture comes from our Kentucky Post collection in Faces and Places. And 1978 was a big year for winter weather. The blizzard made it difficult for people to get out and get food, gasoline, and medical assistance. So many people stepped up and volunteered. Boone County Police Lieutenant Ray Wilson said, "I've never seen such cooperation among people. It's very gratifying." Many community volunteers used their personal 4-wheel drive vehicles to navigate through the snowy and icy roads to more easily reach people living in rural areas. And a few of these volunteers in Northern Kentucky were Sonny Lancaster, Jesse Baker, and Fred Garrett. And Garrett recalled taking 2 women to the hospital who were close to giving birth, and he was worried that he might have to deliver the babies. And one elderly man that he went to help had no food in his house and only frozen drinking water. And Garrett said that he was just glad to help because I might be in the same shape someday. The county's civil defense chief noted that some of the calls for help became a little frivolous. One woman called and wanted her roof cleaned off, and another woman wanted cigarettes to hold her over. But most of the calls that they received for help were reasonable. And Kenton County Patrolman Gary Sparks used a snowmobile to get around in the snowy and icy conditions. And the Kentucky Post noted that in the present emergency, common sense transcends the letter of the law, and Sparks had promised to do what he could to get snowmobiles legalized. And here the picture on the left shows John Shea at the Lakeside Place nursing home. And the Kentucky Post published a piece recognizing his dedication to volunteering and helping out. And he would visit patients there 2 to 3 hours a day at the nursing home. And when someone was sick or needed a companion on an ambulance run to the hospital, he would volunteer to help. And the patients, they enjoyed hearing his stories about his 30 years as Southgate's chief of police. So when the nursing home needed a Santa Claus that year in 1983, John Shea stepped up to the task. And Christmas week, he visited most of the 346 patients there. And John Shea would also plan parties, spend several days a month assisting at St. Luke Hospital, read to patients, call bingo games, and make candy and cookies for the residents. And when interviewed, he said, "Christmas does mean a lot, but there's the old saying that it's better to give than to receive, and it's a theory I've believed in all my life." And here we have a few photos of shopping centers over the years during the holiday shopping season. And in the bottom right is Erling or Kmart, as it was bustling on Black Friday 1990, and all 14 of their cash registers were in service, it was noted. And Kim Geyser and her son Jason, who was 3 years old, they are pictured leaving Crestview Hills Mall with a McAlpin's bag in tow after a day of buying gifts. And at the top left, people are dashing around Shillito's in Florence in search of the perfect gift. And here we have Kathy Murray, who was Santa's helper, and she was using a stuffed bear to try to get a smile from Kayla Robertson, who was 8 months old. And Kayla was getting her picture taken with Santa at Florence Mall. And below, Santa was taking a little break at the mall. And then on the right there, Mary Sweeney and her daughter Kathleen Sweeney of Crescent Springs were shopping on Christmas Eve 1992. And this is a picture of Ken and Edith Wayne with the spruce tree that they donated to the city of Covington for its Christmas tree in 1992. And Ken Wayne had a tree on his property that he needed to cut down, and then the city also needed a new tree to put up for its Christmas party at Old Town Plaza. So Covington and the Downtown Merchants Association put out a flyer with a request for a 25 to 30 foot evergreen for this event. And Wayne, who lived on Monty Lane in Covington, he decided that if he gave the tree to the city, that it would help him out too. So his tree ended up being chosen from about 20 offers that the city had. And this evergreen had been planted about 30 years prior, and it was located on a rental property that he owned near his home. And he said that he had some mixed emotions about the city cutting down the tree, and said that he used to decorate it himself before the tree grew too large. And eventually it had begun to interfere with electrical wires. So thanks to Ken and Edith Wayne, the city had a Christmas tree for the downtown party that year. And then these pictures show families on the hunt for the perfect Christmas tree. On the right, Louis Braden puts a tree in the trunk for Jamie and Bill Hocklutner at a tree lot in the Van Lunen's Plaza in Erlanger. And then Helen, John, and Dennis Lutz had cut down their Christmas tree at Dixie Pines in 1977, pictured there at the bottom right. And Joyce Brown of Independence is putting the finishing touches on a church steeple here. This was part of a Christmas village that she was making at a ceramics class at Ceramics Plus in Florence. And the village was set to be displayed under her Christmas tree. And here, police officers are pictured with children during Shop with a Cop events. And on the left is Dorothy Fugate, who was 12 years old, Florence Police Officer Joe Humbert, and Amy Eversole, who was 11, and Airport Police Officer Doug Eldridge. And the four were leaving Gold Circle to load up the patrol cars with their purchases, and this was from 1985. And there were about 11 children from Boone County elementary schools who went shopping that year, and each child was given a specific amount of money to spend. And as a Kentucky Post article noted, they were able to push their own cart to make their own decisions about what they wanted to purchase, but when they needed advice about a certain gift, a police officer provided a nudge in the right direction. And one of the children was 9-year-old Pete Cook, and he headed straight for the toy section in Gold Circle. And he liked the Masters of the Universe toys, but the first thing that he put into his cart was a Barbie doll for his sister. And Amy Goebel, age 10, didn't buy much for herself, but she purchased things that the family could use. She bought a wall clock for the living room and a popcorn popper for the kitchen. And Michael McIntyre, who was 7 years old, he wanted to do something special for his family. He wanted to decorate the family Christmas tree with gold, white, and red ornaments, tinsel, garland, and then he wanted to purchase a star for the top. And Boone County Patrolman Ken Jansen did some quick math, and he figured that Michael was about $30 over budget with his decorations. So Michael put back what was least important to him, which was an erector set that he'd picked out for himself. And Florence Patrolman Joe Humbert, pictured on the left with Dorothy Fugate, he said that she'd purchased something very pretty and Christmassy for her mother. But he said, "I'm going to make her go back and get something for herself." And after the shopping trip, the group enjoyed lunch at Roy Rogers. And over the years, the Kentucky Post did several features on holiday light displays showing off homes in the area. And here are a couple of these. On the left is the home of Jack and Judy Franksman at 7511 Dixie Highway in Florence. And we have a few photos from their decorations in the database. And one year it was noted that they had about 15,000 lights total, inside and outside. And Jack Franksman had been decorating the house since 1974. And on the right is the home of Brian Jameson at 844 Harris Pike in Independence. And there were lighted candles, bells, toy soldiers, and a snowman, which were part of the display. And this included over 6,000 lights. And Jameson had been decorating since 1982. And this is Steve and Kathy Wortman, and they're standing here in front of their home at 2447 Dixie Highway. And Steve worked in the neon sign business, and he had created the decorations displayed on their home. And Jacob Bauer of Route 10 is pictured here, setting up his nativity scene on a snow flurrying day, and the lights in the lower part of the pine tree are stars. And both of these images are from Christmas 1992. The image on the left shows carriage rides in Burlington, which was part of their weekend celebration to kick off the Christmas season. And as part of their festivities, Boone County Judge Executive Ken Lucas helped Santa and his elves light the Christmas tree, and Christmas carols were sung. And the next day, there were horse-drawn carriage rides and craft booths, and Santa's elves mingled with crowds on the street, and Santa held court at the old courthouse. And a Lionel train display was presented at the State Farm Insurance Office. A live nativity scene was held at the Burlington Methodist Church, and there was also a parade of 50 marching groups led by Santa. And the image on the right shows co-owner Tom O'Daniel as he was working with the poinsettias at Florence Nursery. And this year the Post did an interesting story on live Christmas trees. And they noted that people with tall cathedral ceilings would buy the 12-foot Christmas trees, and families with lots of children and ornaments would buy the bushy ones with lots of branches. So they wondered what happened to the leftover Charlie Brown trees that no one purchased. And to find out, they asked local nurseries. And Florence Nursery would use some of the greenery in leftover trees for floral arrangements. And they said what was left goes to a pond, preferably one with ducks. And employees said that the trees prevent ice from forming and allows the ducks to allowed them more room to easily maneuver in the pond. And this is a picture of Pauline Whitaker around Christmas 1992. The Kentucky Post invited readers to enter stories of memorable and meaningful Christmases. And one of these entries was from Pauline Whitaker of Erlanger, and she remembered a Christmas as a child in London in the 1940s. And although they were in the midst of war, Pauline's grandmother and family found a way to make Christmas special. Her grandmother unpacked the family's best china and crystal to use for their Christmas dinner, and she remembered the air raid siren sounding off in the neighborhood as they were beginning their celebrations. And it seemed that year that almost everything was unavailable, sugar, butter, and eggs, but her grandmother always invented replacements. And when one of the aunts complained about putting chopped carrots and zucchini in a fruit pie, her grandmother's cheerful retort was, "Never mind, love, put plenty of nutmeg and allspice with it." And Pauline recalled that when the meal was ready, there were more people than there were place settings and chairs, and children sat 2 to a chair and shared a plate, and all the pies were covered with her grandmother's wartime version of custard. The main beverage was beer, flat and warm, poured from an enamel jug that had been carried through the streets from the local pub, despite the immediate danger of bombs and flying debris. And during the meal, toasts were made to her uncles, and they were firefighters. And a toast was also made to her father, who was a bus driver and had just a few days earlier been reported lost due to a direct hit on the bus. And later that evening, amid more sirens, they went down to their shelter in the basement, where her aunt played the piano. And Pauline said that she didn't recall any gifts that year, but she said that they had each other and they were together. And another memory that was shared with the Kentucky Post came from Krista Schultz of Alexandria, who was a 7th grader at Riley Middle School at the time. And she wrote, "My favorite Christmas was 4 years ago. I was almost 9 years old, and I'd been an only child for 8 years. It was miserable. And for Christmas that year, her parents told her that she would get a baby sister." Here, members of the Ware family in Newport are gathering around Santa after he arrived in a Newport Fire Department truck, assisted by firefighters. And pictured are Heather, age 7, Ronnie, age 10, Damien, 1, and Billy Joe, age 2. And this was after they had received gifts from Santa. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please send us an email at history@kentonlibrary.org. Give us a call at 859-962-4070, or visit us on the web at kentonlibrary.org/genealogy. Thank you.